must be so cool in all the things that you get to do, Bart, when you get to chat with folks who are passionate about the same things that you are.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about the podcast. That gives me the opportunity, whether we're talking about health or we get to do deep dives into athletics, or even more so, the fighting world, which I just think the fighting world offers such a unique parlay to so many things that take place, even if you're not a fighter, to the challenges that happen in life. And because I've dabbled in it and very unsuccessfully dabbled in it, I know how extremely difficult it is, and all of the things that go into an athlete, quite frankly, any athlete that performs on the highest level is really putting themselves at risk, every single one of them. So there's really no losers out there when it comes to athletics. It's some people are just willing to risk more, and it's fascinating to me.
That's so fun. And talk about mindset too, like the willingness to get back out there. And Bart, I'm going to ask you, like, how many years have you been practicing MMA?
Well, a fair amount. So I guess it goes all the way back to my Atlanta days. I'm going to say I probably started dabbling with jujitsu, and I don't even know if I've ever answered that question. But I'm going to say 2005-ish, maybe. And I'm just getting, no. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe about that time. And I know it was before I moved to Florida, and I had an opportunity, because I remember I was a corner man for a couple of guys in the UFC. And that had to be way back in like the 05 time.
That's so fun. You've been a doctor for a little bit longer than that, but it's very cool that practice has been with you for that long, Bart. And so cool that your passion has brought us also here to the Health Made Simple show.
Yes. Yeah. So, and again, to make no mistake, there are some real professionals out there when it comes to mixed martial arts. I'm not one of them. I am a dabbler. I enjoy it as a sport, and I appreciate all the men and women who have literally gone to the highest levels, because there's no easy feat. So, but yes, it's great to be here on the Health Made Simple show. I know we got some great questions that have come in, and hopefully I'll be able to give some great answers.
Awesome. And I'm so excited to have the format that we have tonight, Bart, because I know these questions are coming from like people that you're seeing day to day in clinic, in life.
Yeah, these are real life questions. And I had an opportunity to peek at one or two of them just before the show started here. And even if these aren't the exact words that are used by everyone, these questions come up all the time, especially the first one we're going to cover. I was really excited that someone sent this in.
Awesome, Bart. So before we launch into those Q&As for tonight, do you have any clinical insights?
I do. I want to share one that is, I think, as important as any that I'm ever going to share, quite frankly.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean that. So it's kind of a tragic situation. Not tragic, I think that's the wrong word. Yet certainly something that has been an accident that happened in a client/friend's life. And so I'll give a clinical insight. For those of you who aren't familiar with clinical insights, they're insights that I have while I'm in clinic. And I think, man, this would probably be something that everyone would benefit from. So I think I'll share it. And this is a perfect example. So I'll do my best to leave his name out, but it might slip out. And I don't think he would mind, or his family would mind me talking, because it's going to be in complete light. So anyways, one of the guys in our clinic recently had an accident, motorcycle accident. And that's what it is. It's an accident. No one prepares for an accident. No one knows how quickly or to what degree we can be injured or damaged in our bodies. And oftentimes we take a lot of things for granted. Anyways, as a result of it, although we can't prepare for an accident and what it might bring us, this was a perfect example of how we prepare every day in life to face the challenges we don't know are coming. And without sounding like a doomsdayer, dark days are coming for all of us, meaning we're going to have challenges. And today, as you're listening to this podcast, is going to give you the legs to stand on when that day happens. That could be with our health, it could be with our wealth, it could be with our relationship, but challenges are going to happen. It's part of the process of life. Anyways, this gentleman, motorcycle accident, motorcycle versus car, and physical body versus car, and the body loses many broken bones. He almost lost his life. Thank goodness he's here. And we as a team got an opportunity to see him in person and his spirit and his liveliness and all the challenges that have and still have such great spirit. But really what I want to speak to is this, and this is what I want everyone to kind of hear me out on, that I've known this guy for quite a while. I don't know how many years. I'm going to say 5 years. It's probably in that. And the entire time I've known him, he's always been involved in his health and fitness. He's always been building muscle. He's always been in the gym, always working out. And yeah, sometimes it's for pure vanity, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, who doesn't want to look better in their own skin? I think that's a great reason to exercise. And I also know that he loves to feel good. So that's another motivating factor. And I know that he loves to be athletic and fit and ride his motorcycles and all the things he loves to do. So the reason is deep why he does it. And here's the reason I'm bringing this up. No doubt about it, his fitness going into this probably saved his life. So the doctors and the physical therapists are blown away by his recovery. I, on the other hand, am not. And the reason I'm not is because the way we measure recovery is based on the last person who had the same situation take place. How did they recover? So if two people break their arms and we say, oh, look how long it takes them to recover. But then all of a sudden, a third person breaks their arm, but they lived an entirely different lifestyle. Now they will be oddball to the other two. And that's what happened in the situation. He has taught his body how to break down and build up every single day. Every time he went to the gym, he prepared himself for the accident. Obviously not consciously, but it was a preparation for what's coming in life. And the beauty is I have absolutely no question in my mind that he's going to have a full recovery and probably launch him to the next level of fitness, the next level of joy in life, the next level of appreciation for what we do have here today. So I wanted to bring that as a clinical insight and just remind people, listen, sometimes the reason that we're doing this hard work of, having discipline with exercise and discipline with our relationships and discipline with our foods is not for the obvious. Sometimes it's the most unobvious answer of all. And that would be what's coming in the future and being prepared for it. That's why I like the idea of being a strong human being. And that our friend here is a super strong human being, both physically and mentally. And as a result of it, we're going to have him around for a whole bunch more.
Bart, that is so inspiring on so many levels. And just this idea that it's not preparing for a special trip or summer season, but just preparing for life. What if we were able to just incorporate that to some of our decisions day to day?
In from a clinical sense, in the science sense, I can't explain to people how real this is. He has literally taught his body, his tissues, how to break down and recover. And break down and recover, going in, squatting and running and lifting and doing the hard stuff. And when he get into an accident, his tissues had to recover. So they know how to break down, and he's already in gear to rebuild. So it's as real as it gets. So hopefully, if anyone's looking for a little extra motivation or reasoning behind their why of getting to the gym tomorrow morning or tonight for that matter, or eating a little better or cleaner today, let that sink in there, because we're always preparing for something.
I do have to also just say about this wonderful person that you and I both know, it's amazing to see his vitality right now, because we see lots of people who come in who are facing physical challenges, and the vitality is not always there on the front end and the discomfort. And this dude is lit up, ready to go.
He is, and not without his hard moments, right? Because when we get some things taken away, he was in a wheelchair when he showed up in the office. So people know this wasn't a car accident, and all of a sudden he was bouncing around and it was a close one. This was a tough accident that he was in. And for a good, healthy young man to be in a wheelchair, that's hard. But you're right, the vitality. And you can't really fake that stuff. You can pump yourself up a little bit, and you can also, and again, you can have your ebb and flows emotionally, but to have the vitality, that comes from a cellular level. That comes from having love in your heart, having love in your life, having good nutrition in your body, having sleep, and having exercise, having purpose in your life. So I salute him. And it's a reminder to me, quite frankly. And I promise you, there are days I don't want to get up. There's days I don't want to exercise. There's days I don't want to eat clean. And those little reminders help me.
They sure do, Bart. With that in mind, should we slide into a couple questions and answers for this evening?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned that you got to peek at a couple of guys before we began. So here we are with the first one that I know you were particularly excited about. So here's the question that came through. Most days, My mom isn't hungry until dinner time. Is that normal?
Yeah. So this question comes in a lot of different ways. And often what I'll hear, especially let's say the generation where our parents are getting older, and is it okay if our elders are only eating maybe once a day or very little and their appetite is getting less and less? So for all of you, I will tell you this is more and more common than you might think. I also want to say it's not awesome. So it goes like this. There's two parts to this, Whitney. One, the appetite is decreasing because the body doesn't need the building blocks, doesn't need the fuel, right? So you're not driving your car much, so you don't need to go to the gas station much. If you drive your car more often, you will need more gas. And this is very important, very similar in the same context that we we're just speaking of. We need to get our elders, we need to find a way to help our parents to get their bodies moving and to keep them strong. If they use their bodies, this is a very simple law of supply, or really demand and then supply. If they use their body, they're walking their dog, they're getting up, they're exercising, they're going to a local, gym or something, they're getting involved in some community classes, whatever it may be, but they're using their bodies physically, it'll increase their appetite. If they're sitting at home and they're not doing much, their appetite will continue to decline. And unfortunately, most of the time, as it declines, they only end up eating for pleasure, not for nutrition, which really means carbohydrates and sugar. So we definitely do see a lot of our elders who literally do eat things like crackers on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So for the person to ask a question, for all of us that have our elders, our parents, or if you may be that person, your appetite is starting to slide, and you also notice that maybe the muscles in your body are going away. The way we change that is do more stuff. Physically move your body, do some hard shit, get your body moving, be kind, and of course be smart when you do it, but get your body moving. Be the car that's running out of gas, so you have to go to the gas station. So you increase your appetite through physiology, not through someone pointing the finger at you and saying, hey, mom, you got to eat, you got to eat, got to eat. For those of you who have older parents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been there. And many of you have been there as well. So keep that in mind. Instead of telling them they need to eat, take them somewhere, get their bodies moving. No one likes to be told what to do. So join them, go for a walk with them, bring them somewhere, drag them somewhere, bring them to the mall, a park way far away, and force them to walk. Do something like that, because when they start to do it, it brings back a little bit of pride, a little vitality. So the simple answer is, it is common. I'm not saying it's okay. It is a sign of decline. And that decline is a physiological decline, that they're no longer needing building blocks, things like amino acids and proteins. Therefore, you don't have an appetite for them.
Do you find, Bart, once people do get a little bit more movement into their life, even the foods that they might be craving will change as the appetite builds?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a great question too. So will the appetite then shift to wanting some protein? 100%. If they're starting to use their body and they're using their muscles, using their connective tissue, and they're starting to get a little tired because they took a long walk, then their body needs building blocks. And then the body will intuitively, innately crave other things. Crave things like proteins in a hamburger or a piece of chicken or turkey or something that has those building blocks in it. So, and again, I don't think we can just make them eat. I don't think that's the answer. Because the moment you leave the house or you're not in front of them, they're not going to eat anymore. So getting them in the habit and the ritual of exercise and movement, and they're never too late to incorporate some level of extra movement in their life. Never too late.
That's such a good reminder that there's just not a point really of no return. There's always ways in which we can bring a little more life into it.
I get the question. I just got the question the other day. Doc, is it too late? And I said, it's never too late. The only time it's too late is when you truly quit. And I don't believe people quit permanently. I believe they have temporary quits, and then they'll get back on the saddle again. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they need to quit just because it's like they need a moment to give up and just kind of deal with it. And then all of a sudden they'll get back on it. So if you ever think it's too late, it's not. And please don't give up on your parents either.
It's a beautiful message, Bart. And you work with people of all ages, correct?
Heck yeah. Yeah. So yeah, today, this could be a good clinical insight. I had a gentleman there today, he's 86 years old. And every day, folks, he goes to the basketball court.
Yes.
And he shoots basketballs. And he laughs and he says, I don't make too many of them anymore, but I'm there. And I said, God bless you. Get there every day, because the day you skip, and then you skip 2 in a row and 3 in a row, the next thing you know, you're not gonna be able to make it there. So just keep going. Even if you can't, even though you only shoot one, just go to the basketball court, shoot your basket. If you make it, hallelujah. If not, just tell everyone you made it anyways. Yeah.
Good reminders, Bart. All right. Are you ready for question number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, beautiful. So here we go. I feel like I'm always on the go. What are the best ways that I can stay clean and healthy? What an amazing question. Proactive.
Yeah. So I hear this question about 1,000 times a week. so I'm exaggerating a little bit. So I'm going to do this in 2 ways. One way, I'm going to answer the way that I think they want to hear, like, what are some of the good foods that you can stay clean and healthy when you're traveling? So one, it is as simple as always being aware of where God's garden is. So even if you're in the airport or you're traveling, or heck, if you're going to a damn gas station, look around, see where there's evidence of God's garden. And if there is, meaning that if it comes from a root plant tree, walks in the garden, swims in the sea, eat it. So if you're able to go to a restaurant and they have a protein source, slap it on your best salad. Awesome. Good to go. Often, Whitney, when I hear this question, what I hear people saying to me or asking me is, Doc, how can I do this and make it really easy for me?
Would you also call that maybe like a shortcut?
Yeah, shortcut. Yeah. Because we've been spoiled. We think that food comes out of a bag in a box and, in a microwave, right? And it doesn't really do that. So I think there's a better question to ask here. And this, if you're really charged and moving and grooving toward the best version of yourself, this is the question that really needs to be asked. What do I need to do for my physiology to be able to handle my busy schedule when it comes to my nutrition? So this is what happens. Too often people say, Doc, I was doing really good and I got really busy and I started traveling, or I was on the road. I was doing all these different things, and it wasn't easy. So therefore I made these poor decisions. Almost to the sense where I often will hear them say, I had to eat something. And what I'm going to say is, how about you train your physiology so you don't have to eat that something? You don't have to put the crap in your body, because by putting crap in your body, it does a couple things. You either have to acknowledge that just happened, and not many of us like to do that, so we accept it. And that's the slippery slope, because then we accept every time we get a little busy, every time it gets a little bit more challenging, we slide and we lower our standards and we lower our expectations of our greatness. So the flip side of that would be acknowledging, like, no, I don't want to do that. So then the question becomes, what do I need to do to increase my physiology, prepare myself better for those moments where I may not have any good choices? And how do we do that? We prepare ourselves. We develop more resilience. That's when we start to practice intermittent fasting. So that, therefore, we had a great conversation today about, you go into the airport. The funny thing is, though, I don't know if people just get all of a sudden they get hungry when they get in the airport, but like, I had to eat. I was in the airport. No, you don't. Go 3-4 hours. Go 5 hours. Go 6 hours. Don't eat in the airport.
Bart, that's so relatable, because it feels like we have this free time and suddenly that translates into like snack time.
Yes, I got to eat in the airport. And I get it, because I travel a fair amount and I recognize the patterns that take place in that nervous energy of catching your flight and boogieing from one gate to the next gate. But even if it's not in, you're traveling and you're just thinking, I'm a busy person, I'm always on the run, and maybe you're a real estate agent, or maybe you're in sales, or you're really not sitting in a kitchen or sitting in an office all day. So what do? We better prepare. And the best way to do this is bring your body into a place, practice, get stronger, develop more resilience. So you're intermittent fasting in the event you're stuck in an airport and there's only McDonald's and Burger King, which really isn't the case anymore. But if those are the only options, you can just bypass and just say, nah, I'm good. I'll wait until I'm at my destination. I'm going to be just fine. And I don't have to just eat something. In fact, I like my body. I like the cells that I'm developing, and I only want to create better and stronger cells. So therefore, I'm only going to put good food into my body. I know that sounds a little bit silly, but it is that mindset. It is that mindset that leads us into making the decisions better. So for this question, because I hear it so frequently, and I've heard it enough times where I really sit back on this one and say, is it the healthy snack that they're looking for? Or if we get to the root cause here, would being a little bit more resilient and improving our physiology a little bit better be a better direction to go into? Now, with that being said, let me give some foods. So let me tell you how easy this is. You want something super fulfilling, not only fulfilling, but it'll give you a little bit of energy simultaneously and super healthy for you. Bring an apple. That's it. Bring an
Apple
apple.
a day, Bart.
Yeah.
Yes.
And some people will say, well, has sugar? No, it wasn't the question you're asking. You're asking how to eat healthy. Apples are healthy for us. Bring a banana. My favorite would probably be a can of sardines or hard-boiled egg. People might not like those options, but there's so many ways if we're looking to do it. And I also think that the idea of getting really good at intermittent fasting, and what I mean by that is being good at it means that maybe you just every day you just practice some disciplines, 12, 14 hours that you're not taking any food in, and maybe it just gets really easy for you. But then one day you got to run off and drive the kids somewhere. You got to get into a meeting or on a phone call or on a Zoom or something like that that was unexpected. And you went 2 or 3 more hours more and you did just fine. That's awesome. That's improving your physiology. That means you didn't have to do anything. You're able to be awesome all the way through that time. And that is probably the better question. How do you improve the physiology? And the food is probably an easy part. Last time I went to, through an airport, all of those things that I just mentioned right there, bananas are everywhere. Apples are everywhere. You can get different, those are still God's garden, right? Are they the best options if you're doing keto or carnivore? No, but they're still great foods.
It's funny because I know a little bit about you, Bart, and I know that you happen to fly with liverwurst. And I want to say that if you are not on the level of flying with liverwurst like Bart, sardines travel so easily and they can pass through everywhere. They just come in like these little tins, and they're not the sardines from like the pizza that you're imagining. They're actually quite delicious.
They are quite delicious. Yeah, they stink a little bit, but nonetheless, they're good. Yeah.
And then I love that we've got this focus on kind of like intermittent fasting. And I wonder just, Bart, if you could talk a little bit about how you also kind of prepare like your energy and I don't know, kind of like your mindset as well, because I happen to know you're a pretty focused dude. So like you have long work days. There's like preparation that happens prior, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts off with one of the biggest things that inhibits or kind of tweaks our appetite or our cravings for food is lack of sleep. So 99% of the time, what tomorrow has, what time you're going to wake up, and most likely the time you're going to go to bed, and what for the most part is going to fill the day energetically. So if we know that, prepare ourselves. And that, and I've talked about it here in the Health Made Simple show. If I had a weak link, it would be my ability to consistently get good enough sleep to meet the needs of my day. So that'd be one. And I get that for a lot of us, that's a challenge. For some people, they got great disciplines there. Anyways, the second part is this. I use a lot of herbs. So herbs will make my body, especially the adaptogen herbs like ashwagandha, bacopa is one of my favorites. So for example, I have to stay sharp on a day like today. We're going, I'm probably 24 hours into it. Haven't eaten dinner yet, folks. This is a long journey. Nonetheless, and on a day like today, I'll use herbs. We use a brain tonic in our office, or I have one. If you've ever been in my office, you look right next to my desk, there's a brain tonic. So I don't eat when I work because for many of you, you experience this too. The moment you eat, you kind of hit a lull. And I don't have that. I don't have that affordability while I'm working to all of a sudden hit a lull when my next patient comes in. So I need to be sharp. So I use herbs like bacopa and ginkgo. I use anti-inflammatory herbs like celery root seed and ginger and whatnot. So really keep my body balanced, although I have no food. And of course, I stay hydrated. Electrolytes are a huge part of it. That might be the simplest if maybe herbs aren't your thing. If you're keeping your electrolytes up, you're going to keep your energy up. We have fat storages, means we have energy sources. And I know it's a little deeper than this question probably is asking, but that's a big part of it. I guess that's really the answer to my question would be, how do we increase the physiology? And I love, quite frankly, I'm actually proud of myself for being able to, at this point in my life, to be able to go, if I need to go 18 hours, 20 plus hours into a fast and still have mental acuity. Because that once the mental acuity goes, that sharpness goes, so does our decision making.
Yes.
And that's when we get hanky cranky and we start to go, well, I had to eat. And next thing you know, you're putting anything in your body and it didn't align with your, where your goals were with your health and where your goals were with your nutrition and whatnot. So I would say just in that big picture, prepare to be awesome. And sometimes you're going to fall short, but the beauty, it gets fun too. When you can start to do things you could never have done in the past. I used to be the eat every 2 hour guy all the time. snacked all the time. Now I don't need to.
And it's not like once a year that you're hitting these unexpected long days for it. I know that they happen like here and again.
Yeah. And it also encourages people, don't start off 18 hours fasting. Don't start off 20 hours fasting. Literally work up to it. So no different than if you were going to start running and you want to do a marathon, you wanted the ability to run 26.2 miles or whatever it is. If you wanted, you certainly wouldn't start at 20 miles, right? You would start at 1 mile and you got really good at that. And maybe go to 2 or 3 miles and build up your endurance. There's no race when it comes to your health. The beauty is that it's compounding. And if you're really building that foundation, it doesn't go away because you practice it daily. So I get the opportunity to practice several days a week, my intermittent fasting, because literally for me, when I'm going to communicate with patients, when I'm doing anything clinical, when I do my public speaking, I don't eat. And I know for some people that doesn't make any sense, but it takes a lot of energy to digest food and blood sugars go up and down. So I just kind of ride it out. And at this point, it works pretty good for me.
Beautiful, Bart. All right. So I know that you got to peek at a couple of the questions tonight. We've got another one coming in now. Are you ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. It's a really good one. I just did a parasite cleanse and I think the parasites are coming back. The question is that possible?
Yeah. The question is, yeah, it's definitely possible. We'll see it all the time, but do not be bummed out by that. So it is very, very possible and clinically to some degree hold on and apologize with my dog here. Apologize about what I'm about to say here because I put a lot of people on parasite cleanse. I expect them to come back.
Ooh.
Yes, I know. So let me elaborate because not always there's certain situations when not. So first of all, we got to ask ourselves, we got to go back to the root cause here. This is why it's so important to always kind of take the functional medicine approach of go to root cause. Root cause meaning this: how did the parasites get there in the first place? What was it about your environment that they were happy about? So it really starts with the acid in our stomach. So if you have strong acid in your stomach, folks, you're going to be able to defend off the majority of all parasites, all bacteria, and all viruses. Yes, all of them, even the boogly wooglies are going to be talking about over the next couple months. With that being said, because we're exposed to it, whether you're eating organic or processed food, listen, parasites live on food. They live on meat. They live on vegetables. They live on every type of food out there. That's what they do. So do bacteria. So anyways, our stomach acid is supposed to be breaking those down and literally killing them off. So they don't get into the intestines. So they don't get into the hotel. Once they get into the hotel and they start setting up camp, what happens is they start to create an imbalance in the hotel. They start to mess it up a little bit and things start to get disrupted a little bit, meaning your microbiome, meaning our tissue within the gut becomes more friendly to the parasites than it does to our good bacteria and to our vitality. So they're creating a house that's good for them, not for us. So we go in there with usually what we'll do is we have an herbal protocol. We use wormwood complex, which is black walnut. It's what else is in there? It's black walnut, clove. There's one other one in there. It'll come to me in just a moment. But 3 different herbs that come together, and then we use something to sweep them all out. And we do this just on 30 days, and you will wipe out probably 80% or more of the colonies that are in your body, which is fantastic. And the beauty is that you'll feel good. You literally do. Now, for some people with healthy guts, meaning you're working on your microbiome, you are working on cleaning up the leaky gut, those scenarios, you don't see the parasites coming back. But in the event that your environment really hasn't changed, they're coming back. I'm going to give you an analogy. Usually I only do this in a one-on-one scenario where no one's going to yell at me, but I'll give you an analogy so people understand the situation here, because this is about as real as it gets. Good. All right. So you're outside, and especially this time of year, you see your dog poop, and in a couple moments, there's all kinds of flies on your poop, correct?
So we're talking about flies arriving, not
flies arriving. You know how the old saying,
Yes.
shit on flies, right? Or flies on shit. That one.
I actually don't, but got it.
Okay. So so there's a saying that says, like flies on shit. Anyways, so there's a bunch of flies on the poop that's on the ground, and I can go in and kill all the flies, and they'll all be dead. The parasites are dead, but the poop is still poop. So more flies are coming because the environment's good for them. So they're coming right back to that. So in the event that your gut is imbalanced, you got a little bit of leaky gut, you're eating carbohydrates and sugar, you're feeding them the exact foods that they want, your stomach acid is low, or heaven forbid, you're on like an antacid or a proton pump inhibitor. You're a little bit inflamed in your gut. You got a little bit of SIBO going on. Any of these things, Crohn's, all these things that create a dysbiotic gut. If these are still taking place, most likely they're coming back. So on the speaking tour, which we start up again in the fall, when I go out and teach all the other docs, all the other functional medicine docs about healing the gut, I'm crystal clear with them with this. Yes, you have to remove the parasites simultaneously. You have to be repairing the damage that they've done to the gut. And if that, it's a little confusing, and I understand that it can be. Keep clearing the parasites out, because the environment that they got there from. So, for example, for myself, I got a bunch of dogs. I'm always, I would say this year, probably more than ever, I've brought myself through parasite cleanses. And the ones that we do with the different herbs that we use in the cleanser and little GI absorb in there, so gentle, so easy. You're not going to have all these side effects. You're not going to have lulls. You're not going to get the brain fog. You're not going to feel woozy and sick. It's really clean. And it took some years to get there, to get this understanding of how to kill off and then remove simultaneously. And if people have questions about it, they can certainly reach out to the office about that. Yeah, so I'll bring this through constantly, because I'm constantly exposed to situations that would be provocative to getting parasites. So I have 100+ chickens who love bugs, and there's bugs all over the place there, and they poop everywhere. And then I have a whole bunch of dogs. So, and I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I'm in the farm on a regular basis now. So it just makes sense for me to be doing that. And listen, everybody out there, the old school way, the most accurate tests we have for parasite testing is check your pulse. If you have one, you got a parasite. And just joke, it's a joke, but that's the most accurate test. And just I'll throw this in there. Stool testing for parasites, it's not accurate enough. It's not, period. We have stool tests. We do them all the time. We did them all the time. They're not accurate enough. My biggest concern about a stool test that comes back negative, because they're 50-50. There's plenty of, you can Google this stuff. There's what's called split testing. And this is real. And this is what people have to understand. Our testing has come light years relative to where it was just 15 years ago. But some technology is still just catching up. And stool testing is one of those, especially when it comes to parasites and a lot of things, quite frankly. So there's what's called split testing. They literally take a stool sample, the exact same sample, split it in two, and send it to the exact same lab at the exact same time. And the results come back frequently, very different. Not sometimes, frequently.
Bart, that's alarming.
I know it is. So, that's why even here in the Health Made Simple show, you don't hear me talk a lot about stool sample testing. And some practitioners are going to be so mad that I'm saying this, but it's true. And if folks haven't done it, go on Google right now. There's plenty of doctors out there, and they show the results and they show the examples, and it's real. So when it comes to the parasites, we have to look at the environment and say, do I have exposure? And if you eat, the answer is yes. If you've ever eaten under stress, it's a double yes. And what is eating under stress? Being on your phone, driving your car, being in a quick conversation, and your stomach acids aren't working great. So all those reasons, the answer is yes, because parasites are in all kinds of food. If you have a bunch of dogs or chickens, you're doubling down here. And then if you've ever been on antibiotics, you've ever been on antacids, we're so many situations will make us very vulnerable for the idea that there's parasites in our body, and our body can handle most of them. The symptoms, bloating, acne, brain fog, joint pain, I could go on, fatigue, constipation, diarrhea, both of those. I could just go on and on. There's so many symptoms that are correlative to it. So I do think it's a good health action at least once a year to go ahead and clean them all out. And we did an entire podcast on the parasites. I don't know what number it was or what we called it, but certainly a good thing. And I think for a lot of people that's looking for that next thing to do, and I'll tell you what, 30 days goes by like that, because it only requires a couple of herbs and a couple of different enzymes. And for the most part, it's relatively effortless other than taking supplements.
Bart, would you also find that abnormal body odor would be a sign of parasites potentially?
It's a possibility. It's certainly a possibility. So here's the thing about parasites, and I think this we often overlook this. One of the biggest challenges that we have with parasites, not the actual parasite, although they do take over the house. So they eat food. So, inability to lose weight is a very common one. So we just got some news. One of our girls today I've been struggling to lose weight for years, like 5 years, doing everything under the sun. So I put her on a Parasite protocol for 30 days. She lost 12 pounds because parasites eat first. And I don't care how many times you run laps around the track, your parasites aren't losing weight, right? The challenge with the parasites, and that's real, right? So that's the challenge with the parasites, as much as the fact that they're going to drive your hunger and they want you to have sugar and carbohydrates, it's their debris, it's their poop, it's their toxic waste that circulates back into your body that produces an systemic inflammatory state for humans. That's the deeper issue here. That's the one that creates the chronic fatigue, the skin issues, the acne, the blurred vision, the weaker sight, all of these different things that we don't really correlate, but it's actually the debris of the waste material. Yes, I'm talking about parasite poop. That's what I'm talking about. It is that toxicity that creates a lot of problems for us.
I think it's as appetizing as this conversation is, Bart. It's so important, and it's so great that people are kind of thinking and talking about this, because I think parasites probably existed before humans. So they've been around forever. And for us to have some tools kind of in our pocket in order to clear these out, like talk about increasing human function.
Yeah. So, and it's really, and what I want, hopefully everyone takes, it's not easy. If you haven't done it, just call our office. We can set you on a protocol. And again, it's 3 little herbs that come in one. So it's a complex. Oh man, it's getting, but it's wormwood, clove, and black walnut. Those are the 3. Those 3 herbs. And if you Google, those are the 3 ones that are classic, been around forever, and they're very, very effective. They paralyze and kill. And then we use 2 different ways to bind them and then kind of sweep them out of your body so you don't become symptomatic in the kill off. Really easy.
So if any of our listeners want to check out episode 151, I've sent a little link there. We'll put it there in the show notes. It's a little bit more about parasites.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And it's, I think, again, it's just one of those simple topics. So I guess back to the initial question, you did a parasite cleanse and you recognize that some of the symptoms are coming back, and they could very well do it. And part of that is the environment probably didn't change that significantly. They do lay eggs, but there's a good chance that the environment was mostly the same prior to the cleanse as well. So again, just go back and kill them all off and get with your functional medicine doctor to help you heal up your whatever dysbiosis or leaky gut that you might have. And next thing you know, you'll be feeling that good all the time.
Beautiful, guys. Thank you so much for submitting your questions tonight. Know that anyone is welcome to do so. You can send us an email or pop it right into our show website. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight for the Health Made Simple show.
Yeah. Once again, thank you guys for showing up. Keep doing the thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. Of course, we're going to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.